The moment Leon Hargrove pointed at my boss and said, "Explain," the entire room forgot how to breathe. I was standing near the back of the conference room at RidgeSphere's Portland headquarters, clutching a folder I no longer had any real authority to carry. Outsourced analysts stood in a crooked line near the front, whispering among themselves, trying to guess why our most demanding client had shown up without an appointment. No one expected him to walk through those glass doors. No one expected him to look this furious. Dean Hollister, our chief financial officer, stepped forward with a smile that collapsed halfway up his cheeks. "Leon, this is unexpected. We could have arranged." Leon didn't shake his hand. He didn't bother sitting. He didn't even look at the presentation slides Dean had queued up. His eyes swept the room, landed on the unfamiliar faces, skipped over the nervous outsource crew, then locked on me. Carolyn," he said quietly, like he needed to confirm I was real. I forced out, "I'm here." His jaw tightened. He turned back to Dean, raised his arm, and pointed like he was isolating the source of a contamination. "Explain." That one word hit Dean harder than any accusation could. His voice tangled in his throat. "Leon, I assure you, everything is under control. We've expanded globally. Increased efficiency? Reduced costs." Leon cut him off. "I asked you to explain why my reports are being handled by people I have never met, and why the one person I trust is standing without a seat in her own department." Dean's smile died completely. The outsourced analysts stared at the floor. Micah, my former teammate, lingered by the doorway with a look of apology he didn't have to say out loud. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my teeth. I knew exactly which mistake Leon was referring to. I knew exactly when it began, and it all traced back to one decision Dean had bragged about as if it were genius, replacing my entire team to save a few dollars he could parade around in a budget meeting. Leon faced me again. "Carolyn, when did this start?" My throat closed. Every answer I had was dangerous. I opened my folder because it gave my hands something to do, and the memory hit like a fist 3 weeks earlier, when Dean called us into a room and said he had a new direction. And that was when everything truly began. Dean walked into our weekly operations meeting holding a spreadsheet like it was a trophy he planned to slam on the table. I could tell from the way his shoulders squared that whatever he was about to say would hurt. "Everyone, eyes up," he announced. "Corporate wants hard cuts this quarter." Micah, sitting beside me, whispered, "That tone never means anything good." I nudged him quiet. Dean tapped the screen of his tablet. "We are expected to reduce operating costs by 30%. 30, that number does not move. RidgeSphere wants lean efficiency, and frankly, this department is not lean." I felt the words land before he said the rest. "Our analytics team is too expensive." I straightened in my chair. "Dean, our workload has doubled this year. Cutting analysts now." He raised a hand. "No debate. The decision is final." Beside him, a junior HR rep shifted uncomfortably, clearly wishing she were anywhere else. Micah leaned forward. "Are you saying we have to cut tools or overtime, or I am saying—" Dean interrupted. "That we will be transitioning your responsibilities to a new offshore partner in Manila. They can handle the workload at a fraction of the cost." The room fell completely still. I heard myself speak. "You're replacing the entire team." "Yes," he said, "and we need complete cooperation. Full documentation." Smooth handover. Micah's voice cracked. "Dean, Leon's audits rely on us. He knows our process. He calls Carolyn directly." Dean's expression tightened. "And that brings me to the part everyone needs to understand." He lowered his voice. "No one speaks to Leon about this transition. Clients need results, not relationships. Manila's team will send identical reports. He will not notice." My pulse kicked hard. "You want us to hide the entire transition from him?" Dean smiled like he thought he'd just solved a complex puzzle. Exactly. The less noise, the better. Micah looked at me, fear tightening his jaw. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was not just about saving a few dollars. Something else was buried beneath his confidence. Why was Dean so desperate to hide the outsourcing change from our most important client? The office felt too quiet for a room full of people pretending nothing was wrong. My 5 analysts people I had trained from their first days were packing their desks like they were trying not to draw attention to their own disappearance. Should we label these boxes? Harper asked, her voice thin. Just keep your essentials. I said HR will sort the rest. She nodded, but her eyes flicked to Dean's door like she expected him to watch us leave. Micah hesitated before shutting down his computer. Carolyn, can we talk privately? We stepped into the small focus room across the hall. He closed the door quietly, as if the act itself might get him fired faster. He pulled me aside. Micah said, yesterday, after the meeting. Dean, I asked. Micah nodded. He told me to fast-track the documentation. But he said if something feels too detailed, I should skip it. I stared at him. Skip what risk notes? Edge cases. The failure alerts you always told us to flag. His voice wavered. He said Manila doesn't need all the background, that it slows them down. I inhaled slowly, feeling something hot rise in my chest. He wants them to follow a script. Micah, not understand the system. Micah swallowed. I asked if that was safe. He said it was not our problem anymore. Of course he had said that. I leaned against the table, steadying myself. Listen to me. You did everything right. This isn't on you. Micah looked at the floor. It feels like we're being erased. I didn't answer, because the truth hurt too much to speak. Later that afternoon, I joined the first onboarding call with the Manila crew. Their project manager, Ramil, introduced himself cheerfully, already asking for shortcuts to speed things up. They followed the scripts rigidly, unaware of the traps buried beneath every dataset we protected for years. By the time the call ended, my chest felt tight. We weren't being replaced. We were being erased. What happens when the people taking our place don't understand what we've been guarding all this time? The first official handover call with the Manila team began with forced enthusiasm. Ramil, their project manager, greeted us with a bright voice that didn't match the tension in our room. Good afternoon, Ridgesphere team, he said. We are excited to streamline your workflow and optimize efficiency. Micah shot me a look. I kept my expression neutral. Let's start with the reporting chain for Leon Hargrove. I said, his audits require strict validation before any dataset is published. Ramil nodded quickly. Yes. We have the checklist. Validation script. Send file. Confirm delivery. Simple. It is not simple, I replied. Leon's reports can trigger multi-million-dollar decisions. A single duplicated entry can. We will optimize that, he said, cutting me off. Our analysts will use automated macros to eliminate slow manual checks. I felt a cold twist in my stomach. The manual checks exist because the macros miss edge cases. The validation rule we built prevents corrupted data from slipping through. Ramil waved a hand. Your documentation said you wanted efficiency. We already cleaned unnecessary code. Cleaned, I pressed. What exactly did you remove? He hesitated. Old validation lines that did not match our scripts. My pulse thudded. I pulled up the shared screen. One glance at the code and my chest went tight. You deleted the custom validation rule. Ramil tried to laugh it off. It looked inactive. Your earlier notes said it was rarely triggered. It was rarely triggered because it was doing its job, I said. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Dean, who had been hovering in the doorway, stepped inside. Let's not overcomplicate things. Carolyn, they know what they're doing. They removed the one safeguard Leon relies on. I said, Dean sighed. This is what transition looks like. You cannot cling to old habits out of fear. Micah tensed beside me, waiting for my reaction. I closed the code window, forcing my hands steady. When the shortcut becomes the spark, the fire will not be small. The first alert came from Micah. Carolyn, check the report. Now. I opened the weekly logistics file we had just sent to Leon. Within seconds, my stomach dropped. 3 discrepancies glared back at me, 2 mismatched quantities, and a duplicated cost entry so blatant it might as well have been circled in red. I whispered, "This cannot be real." Micah called immediately. They pushed it live without running validation. Manila said the macro looked clean. "Did anyone manually check it?" I asked. "They told me not to slow down the process," he said. His voice cracked. "Carolyn, Leon is presenting that report right now, in Chicago." Before I could respond, messages from the Manila team flooded our group chat. "Urgent VIP escalation. We are reviewing the numbers. Please advise. Is error from your side or ours?" Dean stormed into my workspace. "What is happening?" "The report went out corrupted," I said. "Leon is walking into a board review with false numbers." Dean waved that aside like a fly. "Tell them it was a temporary system lag." "Nothing more." Micah's voice rose behind me. "Dean, this is not a lag. The entries were duplicated. That affects decisions involving millions." Dean snapped, "Do not dramatize. Manila will fix it." My phone buzzed again, this time with an email notification. From Leon Hargrove. I opened it slowly. Breath caught in my throat. "Carolyn, this report is unacceptable. Who on your team sent me this?" The room seemed to tilt. My team was gone. Manila had pushed the file. Dean had insisted no one tell Leon anything. I stared at the message, hands shaking. Micah whispered, "What are you going to say?" I had no answer. If I told the truth, Dean would come after me. If I lied, Leon would think I betrayed him. The cursor blinked in the reply window, waiting for a name I could not type. How long could I keep lying before the truth exploded? The emergency hotline rang in the middle of the afternoon. I wasn't supposed to answer it anymore. Dean had reassigned the line to the Manila crew, but I still recognized the ringtone. It was the one I set years ago when Leon asked for 24-hour direct support. Across the office, one of the outsourced analysts picked up the call. "Hello, Sir Leo." "Hargrove," he said, stumbling over the name. I closed my eyes. Leon hated when people rushed through details. Names, numbers, timelines. They mattered to him because they protected his reputation. The analyst's voice wavered. "We are checking, sir. Very sorry for inconvenience." When the call ended, a tight silence settled over the room. The Manila team avoided my eyes. Micah looked sick. He called the hotline. He whispered, "He asked for you, didn't he?" I didn't need confirmation. I could feel it in my bones. Leon had finally realized I wasn't on the other end of the line. Before I could process that, my phone vibrated. Not my work phone, my personal one. A single message appeared from a number saved years ago. "This is not your work." "What happened?" "Meeting tomorrow." "Leon," my hands shook, and suddenly I was back in that flashback the night I slept under my desk, rebuilding a corrupted dataset that, if left broken, would have triggered a compliance penalty worth more than $1 million. I remembered Leon calling at 2 a.m. His voice strained. "I need that report by sunrise." Carolyn, this could cost us everything. And I remembered sending him the fixed file at dawn. He never forgot that. Micah stepped closer. "Are you going to tell him the truth?" "I cannot," I said. "Not yet." Dean walked by with his usual forced confidence. "Everyone stay calm. Leon will understand." But I knew Dean too well. If anyone was going to take the fall for this, he would make sure it was me. Would Dean come clean? Or would he sacrifice me to protect his lies? Dean cornered me before I made it to my desk the next morning. His smile was too sharp, too eager, the kind that always meant trouble. "Carolyn." "Good," he said. We need to talk before Leon arrives. I kept my voice steady. What exactly do you need from me? You're going to sit in on the meeting, he said. Act like everything is still under your guidance. Leon trusts you. Use that. I stared at him. Use me how to stabilize the situation. Dean replied, lowering his voice. If we lose this client, HR will assume the analytics department could not scale under your leadership. That lands on you, not me. There it was, the plan he'd been shaping since the moment he announced our team was too expensive. You pushed Manila to take over, I said. You were the one who insisted on hiding the transition. Dean stepped closer. Watch your tone. Perception matters more than truth. If Leon thinks you abandoned the process, that is your burden. My chest tightened. You want me to lie for you. I want you to protect your job, he answered, and maybe save the company while you're at it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from Micah slid across the screen. Carolyn, you need to see this. Do not show anyone. Then a file attachment. I opened it while Dean rambled about narrative control. It was a screenshot of a chat thread Dean telling the Manila team to push the report live, even if validation fails, followed by a note. We need speed, not perfection. Send it. My breath caught. Micah texted again. He told them to ignore the safeguard. He overrode everything. I closed the message, feeling the weight of proof settle in my hands like a loaded stone. Dean touched my shoulder. We are aligned. Correct? I stepped back. I will be at the meeting. He looked relieved. Good. Stay focused. We need to keep Leon calm. But he had no idea what I had just seen or how quickly the ground under him was cracking. Should I protect my job or expose the truth and let everything fall? I arrived in the conference room 15 minutes early, palms damp, heart thudding against my ribs. The monitors were already set up with Dean's slides bright, polished, and full of the kind of meaningless phrases he loved: global optimization, strategic efficiency, cost synergy alignment. None of it would survive contact with the truth. Micah slipped in quietly. You do not have to do this alone, he said. I know, I whispered, though I felt anything but steady. Before he could say more, the executive entrance door clicked open. Leon walked in without waiting for security, without an assistant, without a single sign he intended to play nice. His expression was controlled, but the anger simmering beneath it was unmistakable. Dean burst in seconds later, breathing too quickly. Leon, good to see you. If you will take a seat. I prepared a full breakdown. Leon didn't even glance at the projector. His gaze went straight to me. Carolyn, he said, did you approve the logistics report that went to Chicago? My throat tightened. Dean jumped in immediately. She supervised the transition. Of course she... Leon raised a hand, silencing him. I did not ask you. The room went still. I swallowed hard. No, I said, I did not approve it. Dean lurched forward. That is not accurate, Dean, Leon said sharply. Sit down. Dean froze, then lowered himself into the chair like gravity had doubled. The words caught in my chest, but I forced them out. I have proof the validation rule was deleted, and I have the instruction thread directing the team to publish the report, even when the system flagged errors. Micah handed me his laptop. I mirrored the screen to the monitor. The deleted rule. The timestamps. Dean's own message. Push it live. Validation slows us down. Leon stared at the screen for a long moment, then exhaled through his teeth. I felt every emotion I'd buried rise all at once. Fear, shame, anger, and relief that I was finally done lying. What would Leon do with the truth I finally handed him? Leon pushed back his chair and stood. The movement was calm, controlled, but it drowned out every other sound in the room. He faced Dean directly, his voice low and sharp enough to cut through steel. Explain. Dean blinked fast, as if hoping the word wasn't meant for him. Leon, I think we should review the slides first. Explain why the person I trusted was removed from her position. Leon said, explain why my reports were handled by people who did not know my name. Explain why a validation safeguard was deleted. Explain why I was humiliated in front of my board with corrupted data. Dean's mouth opened and closed. We were responding to Market. Leon raised a hand, shutting him down. No. Timeline. Start from the beginning. Dean swallowed. Corporate wanted savings. We had to pivot quickly. The team was resistant to scaling, so I implemented resistant. Leon's voice sharpened. You mean the team that saved you from a compliance penalty worth over $1 million last year? Dean's gaze darted to me, then back to Leon. Carolyn exaggerated her involvement. The transition was smooth until Manila. Leon stepped closer. So now you are blaming people who were following your instructions, or blaming someone you pushed out of the department. His tone carried a weight that made the Manila team shrink into their chairs. Which narrative would you like on record? Dean's hands shook. This is being blown out of proportion. Is it? Leon nodded at the evidence still on the screen. Your messages instructing them to push the report live violate 3 clauses of your master agreement with us. He paused, including the one that assigns personal liability for compliance misrepresentation. The door opened. 2 Ridge Sphere executives entered, their faces pale. One whispered to Dean, "You need to come with us." Dean tried to protest, but his voice broke. They guided him out, the door clicking shut behind them. Leon finally turned to me. I only trust people who protect the truth, not those who hide behind spreadsheets. His words settled heavily in the quiet that followed. What would Leon offer me now that everything had collapsed? The conference room emptied slowly, leaving only the rustle of papers and the fading echo of what had just happened. I stood by the window, trying to steady the mix of anger and relief pulsing through me. Leon closed the door behind the last executive, then turned toward me with a calm that didn't match the chaos outside. "Carolyn," he said, "walk with me." We moved down the hallway together. No one stopped us. No one even looked up. Ridge Sphere felt hollow now, like a place already shedding its skin. In the smaller adjoining office, Leon leaned against the table. "I spoke with my board this morning," he said. "Before I came here, I waited, unable to predict anything anymore. They want an in-house analytics and risk unit. No outsourcing. No intermediaries. No more experiments with cost-cutting." His eyes met mine. "I want you to build it." My breath caught. "Leon, you're offering me a position?" "A department," he corrected softly. "You will lead it. Full autonomy. Hire the people you trust. If you want your old team, make the calls. Salary and resources will match the responsibility. And you stay in Portland." It took a moment for his words to land. "Why me?" "Because you did not hide," he said, "even when it put you at risk. Outside the office." Raised voices echoed briefly, executives escorting Dean toward an internal audit review. Later, I would learn he was terminated by the board, stripped of his credentials for misrepresenting compliance data, and barred from senior financial roles for several years. His shortcuts had finally cost him more than he ever imagined. I looked back at Leon. "If I say yes, I'm leaving Ridge Sphere entirely." He nodded. "You deserve better than this place." I picked up my bag, just one. Everything else suddenly felt unnecessary. Walking out of Ridge Sphere's doors for the last time, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, certainty. Cutting costs is easy. Rebuilding trust is not, and that is why. In the end, Leon chose the one thing Dean never understood: people.
My boss looked straight at me as if he had rehearsed the moment and said my team had become divisive. He delivered the line right after announcing that the bonuses we earned through 300% growth were being reassigned to departments that needed more support. The conference room fell into an awful, echoing stillness. No one moved. No one breathed. I felt 12 pairs of eyes slide toward me, each carrying a different kind of hurt. Ethan's confusion, May's disbelief. Jordan's fury just barely held together at the edges. My name is Kara Ellington, and I have led the precision assembly team at our Austin contract manufacturing site for 4 years. I have weathered machine failures, supply crises, impossible deadlines, and corporate reorgs, but I had never witnessed humiliation delivered so cleanly, so deliberately. Kara, my boss, Neil Harwood, added with a thin smile. You should understand, exceptional output can disrupt culture if not balanced. May whispered, balanced. We worked 6 days a week for 3 months. Neil did not even turn toward her. Culture matters more than raw numbers. Other teams felt overshadowed. Jordan's chair scraped sharply against the floor. So we're being punished for doing our jobs too well. Mind your tone, Neil replied. No one is being punished. We are protecting cohesion. Something inside me steadied at that word. Protecting. He was not protecting us. He was protecting himself. I watched my team crumble, May blinking back tears. Ethan shaking his head as if he could physically reject the insult. Their pride snapping. Their trust in one another beginning to splinter. Exactly what Neil wanted. I could feel my own pulse rising, but instead of breaking, I let out a quiet breath and forced a smile. Not a warm one. A precise one. A warning. Everyone, I said. Pushing back my chair, meeting in my office. Now. Chairs rustled, eyes widened. Neil's expression faltered just slightly, just enough for me to see he had not expected me to move first. My team stood and followed me out, their steps unsteady, the fracture already beginning. And as we left that room, I realized the real damage had only just begun. The moment my team and I stepped out of the conference room, the hallway changed. Conversations broke apart mid-sentence. People who had greeted us every morning for years suddenly found their phones fascinating. I heard a hiss of laughter behind someone's hand, followed by a muttered, "There they go." Ethan walked close beside me, jaw clenched. They heard everything, he murmured. They were meant to, I said. Neil had wanted an audience. Inside Austin Facility 3, politics traveled faster than any work order. By the time we reached our workstations, our Slack channels were unnervingly quiet. Threads that usually flew with questions, updates, and late-night jokes now showed unread messages from earlier that morning. Nothing after the meeting. It was like someone had flipped a switch. May typed a greeting into the main channel. No response. After a long minute, she whispered. Did they mute us? Jordan spun his monitor toward me. A screenshot filled the screen, our team's photo edited into a mock poster titled, The Dividers. The caption read, 300% output, 0% teamwork. He swallowed hard. Who would make something like this so fast? Ethan snapped. Everyone's been jealous for months. Maybe now they finally get to say it out loud. May rubbed her temples. Maybe Neil's right. Maybe we did make people feel overshadowed. Her voice cracked, and I felt something twist inside me. No, I said sharply. We worked hard. That is not a crime. Before I could say more, Louis, normally the quietest on our line, shoved his stool back so hard it toppled. I'm not doing this, he said, eyes burning. I'm not letting people call me divisive when all I did was my job. He stormed out, the door slamming behind him. Jordan exhaled shakily. Kara, this feels coordinated. He was right. The meme, the silence, the stares. None of it had the randomness of gossip. It was too quick, too polished, too ready. I tightened my grip on the edge of my workstation, steadying myself as the noise of the plant swelled around us. Something larger was unfolding, something set in motion long before the meeting, and whoever had started it was hoping we would fall apart before we ever saw their face. By mid-afternoon, the tension inside our area felt heavier than the machinery around us. No one argued with the memes, or the silence on Slack, or the glances from other lines. Instead, they turned the sharp edges inward. Ethan slammed a tool drawer shut. I'm done with this, he said. I already sent HR a request to transfer to line 7. I straightened. You did what it is not personal. Kara, I just need distance. 10 minutes later, he returned, angrier than before. Denied. HR says moving me would disrupt operational continuity. Translation. Neil does not want me going anywhere. May had been quiet all day, but now she sank onto a chair, her voice thin. 3 months of overtime, 200 hours of extra shifts. And this is what we get. Jordan crouched beside her. May, breathe, We are figuring this out. She shook her head and wiped her face. I trusted this place. I trusted all of you. Before I could speak, Tyler stepped forward, arms crossed tight. Maybe we should talk about how we ended up here. Kara pushed us harder than any team in this building. Maybe that is why everyone hates us. Jordan shot back. Do not blame her for Neil's garbage. I am not blaming, Tyler snapped. I am saying she should have seen this coming. You do not get 300% growth without making enemies, May whispered. Maybe she trusted the wrong people. I felt the words land heavy, accurate, and cruel. Enough, I said quietly. If I pushed too hard, that is on me, but none of you deserved what Neil did today. Tyler's jaw tightened. You still think this is only about today? Something in his tone made my stomach drop. I stepped closer. What are you saying? He hesitated, then lowered his voice. There were meetings, conversations with management, questions about our workflow. Someone has been talking, feeding them details. The room went still. Ethan looked at the others, then at me, who no one answered. But all of us felt the same cold recognition the fracture was no longer coming from outside. It was already inside us, widening with every breath. My office barely fit 6 people on a normal day, now 12 crowded inside, leaning against filing cabinets and walls, shoulders tense, breaths uneven. I closed the door and pressed my back to it as if holding the world out. Tyler stood with his arms crossed. May clutched a tissue. Ethan paced in a narrow line across the carpet. No one spoke. They were waiting for me to break first. I stepped forward. What happened today was not about our performance. It never was. Jordan let out a bitter laugh. Neil basically called us a threat. He did, I said, because excellence threatens a fragile hierarchy. We made this facility look good, just not the right people. May's voice trembled. Then why call us divisive? Why make everyone hate us because it is easier to turn the building against us than admit certain managers benefited from our work? I said. The label is a tactic, not a truth. Ethan stopped pacing. So we are the scapegoats. Yes, I said, and I need to say something to all of you. If I pushed too hard these past months, if I demanded more than I should have, it was because I believed excellence would be rewarded. I was wrong. The room shifted, shoulders loosened, breathing steadied. Their exhaustion did not disappear, but for the first time all day, they were looking at me instead of at the floor. Tyler lowered his arms. So what do we do now? We decide who we are, I said, not who Neil tells the building we are. If we let him turn us on one another, he wins. If we stay aligned, he loses control of the story. Jordan nodded. No more letting them pit us against each other. May brushed a tear away. I want to fight back. Together. A murmur of agreement rose through the cramped room. Thin but real. They did not know what retaliation would come next. Neither did I. But for the first time since the meeting, we were standing on the same side of the line. By the next morning, the fallout had shifted from whispers to something sharper. Ethan waved me over to his workstation, his face drained. Kara, look at this. The spindle variance logs from last week. They are gone. I leaned in. Gone how gone, as in deleted. The entire chain. Before I could respond, May hurried toward us with her tablet pressed to her chest. My QA tickets disappeared, she said. Everyone I filed during the rush build in January. They are not archived. They are not closed. They are just gone. Jordan tapped rapidly at his console. Check this out. The calibration file you uploaded for the torque tools. It now lists Randall from line 5 as the uploader. I felt a cold weight settle under my ribs. That file had my signature. How would his name replace mine? Ethan muttered. Only someone with admin-level access could overwrite that. I called it EE. The technician sounded polite, bored, and unhelpful. No record of unusual activity. Kara, everything looks normal in the mez. Normal, I repeated. Entire logs are missing. Maybe user error, he suggested. Maybe they were never entered properly. Jordan snorted loud enough for the tech to hear before I ended the call. The room felt as if someone had drained the oxygen from it. Silence formed a tight ring around us until Luis approached cautiously. Kara, can I talk to you alone? I stepped aside with him. He kept his eyes on the floor. Your boss asked me to report anything that seemed off. He said it was for leadership alignment. Ethan turned sharply. You told Neil about us. No, Luis whispered. I told him nothing. but he knew things anyway, before they happened. The cold weight under my ribs tightened. Someone was rewriting our work, erasing pieces of us from the system where our value lived. I opened a new folder on my tablet and began backing up every file I could reach. Every shift log, every timestamp, every ticket, whatever truth remained. I needed to save it before someone decided it no longer existed. The moment we gathered again, I set my tablet on the table and looked at each of them. We cannot undo the damage they are trying to create, I said, but we can keep them from rewriting who we are. Ethan crossed his arms. So what is the plan first? I said. Every one of you keeps private archives, timestamps, batch yields, cycle counts, shift logs, everything you personally touch. Save it off-site if you need to. May frowned. That is going to make them suspicious. They are already suspicious, Jordan replied. They deleted our data, I continued. Second, no one speaks to management alone. If Neil or anyone else pulls you aside, you say, I will answer with my team lead present. Nothing good comes from private conversations right now, Tyler nodded slowly. And the rumors facts only, I said. No emotion, no defensiveness. If someone says we refuse to share process data, you say, our workflow documents were submitted on time. If they claim we were uncooperative, you say, our deliverables hit target, nothing else. A chime sounded from my laptop. An email from HR. I opened it, and the room went still. Kara Ellington, the message read, we have received anonymous feedback regarding leadership concerns, specifically allegations of creating internal factions and undermining collaborative culture. We request a meeting by the end of the week. Jordan swore under his breath. They are coming after you now. May looked panicked. Kara, they cannot be serious. They are very serious, I said quietly. This is not about punishing us. It is about discrediting us before the truth comes out. Ethan stepped closer. Then what do we do? I looked at each of them, 12 faces that had once walked into this building with pride. We draw a line, I said. No more silence, no more surrender. We stand together, or we let them decide our story for us. Tyler exhaled slowly. Then we stand. The others nodded, tired but resolute. For the first time, it was no longer just my fight. It was ours. The request came just after lunch. A major automotive client wanted a full rush build order completed in 36 hours. Under normal conditions, it took at least 72. Ethan stared at the production specs. This is impossible. We do not even have the staffing for a double shift. I know, I said. Which is why it should go to another line, before I could escalate it. Neil appeared behind us, hands tucked casually into his pockets. No need to involve upper management. Kara, your team can handle this. Jordan stepped forward. We cannot, not without sacrificing safety checks. Neil's smile sharpened. If your team is not divisive, prove it. I felt heat rise in my chest. Assigning us a guaranteed failure does not prove anything, except he cut me off, except that leadership can still rely on you when it matters. By the end of the shift, a disciplinary memo arrived in my inbox. Failure to demonstrate collaborative mindset. Resistance to operational needs, flagged for review. May saw the notification on my screen. They are punishing you for pushing back, Tyler muttered. They want you gone so they can blame everything on us. The pressure inside me snapped like an overstressed weld. I grabbed my badge and walked out to the back corridor, needing air. I was halfway to the exit when someone called my name. Kara, wait. It was Ravi Patel, a senior engineer from Line 2. We barely spoke beyond technical coordination. He glanced around before lowering his voice. I heard something you need to know. I steadied myself. What is it, your boss? He said. The bonus reallocation. He started planning it weeks before your results were even finalized. He told our supervisor that your team needed to be brought back to reality before you embarrassed the rest of the division. The words hit like a physical strike, Ravi continued. This is not random hostility. He set the stage long before today. I closed my eyes, letting the truth settle heavy, undeniable. Nothing we were facing was accidental. It had all been engineered. Neil summoned me with a single-line email, performance review, conference room 2, urgent, no team members, no HR witness, a deliberate setup. When I stepped inside, the blinds were drawn. Neil sat alone with a thick stack of printed reports. He gestured toward the chair across from him. Sit, Kara. We need to address your team's failures. I kept my expression neutral. Show me what you have. He spread the papers like a dealer laying out a losing hand. Yield drops from early February. Schedule slips on the last 3 builds. Calibration inconsistencies. All documented under your team's workflow. I looked at the sheets. Entire columns were altered, numbers sanded down, timestamps misaligned, file authors reassigned. Jordan's voice rang in my memory. Someone is rewriting history. Neil leaned back, satisfied. This is what happens when a group becomes obsessed with looking exceptional instead of being reliable. I folded my hands in my lap and waited until he finished talking. Then I placed my own folder on the table. Here are the originals, I said. Archived off-site, timestamped, verified. He frowned. That is not official data. It is the data before someone accessed the MES under your credentials. For the first time, the confidence slipped. You are making dangerous accusations. A knock interrupted him. The door opened, and Senior Director Marlene Ortiz stepped inside, her expression unreadable. Do not stop on my account, she said. I received a packet last night, a compilation of discrepancies, including screenshots of the changes made from your login. Neil's face drained. Marlene, this is taken out of context. It is enough to initiate an audit, she replied, effective immediately. He opened his mouth, closed it again. The power he relied on so easily had evaporated in a single breath. Marlene turned to me. Kara, you will cooperate fully. Your team may be contacted. I nodded, feeling the shift ripple through the room. The meeting he thought he controlled now belonged to the truth we had refused to surrender. The internal audit began the next morning. At first, investigators asked only about my team's workflow, but within hours they were knocking on doors across the entire facility. By noon, murmurs spread through the break rooms. Other departments had seen the same patterns we had. Ethan approached me quietly. Quality control just told me their bonus pool was diverted last quarter. No explanation, Jordan added. Line 5 reported manipulated scrap rate logs. Same formatting issues as ours. Then May whispered. Someone from training said Neil forced them into weekly culture alignment meetings. They had to identify which teams were becoming too visible. Each statement chipped away at the lie Neil had built around us. His tactics were not personal, they were systemic. On the 3rd day of the audit, HR requested my team in the large conference room. The investigators reviewed our archives, compared timestamps, traced ME's edits back to login histories. One of them looked up and said, Your documentation is the only reason any of this is traceable. By the end of the week, the announcement came from Senior Director Ortiz herself. She addressed the entire Austin facility with Neil standing beside her, rigid and pale. Effective immediately, she said, Neil Harwood is being reassigned to regulatory compliance, where all activity is subject to external review. A quiet shock rippled through the floor. Compliance was not a promotion. It was a cage, every email logged, every report audited, every decision scrutinized. Neil did not speak. He simply nodded, jaw tight. Knowing the entire building understood the message, the man who weaponized policy was now bound to it. As he stepped away from the podium, Ethan leaned toward me. He did this to so many people. They finally saw it. HR released updated guidelines the same afternoon, bonuses tied strictly to verified output. Audit trails required for edits. No sole authority decisions on performance narratives. Our names were cleared, our data restored. The political machine Neil built had collapsed under the weight of its own lies. And for the first time in months, my team walked across the floor without lowering their eyes. 2 weeks after the audit closed, Senior Director Ortiz called me into her office. She did not waste time. Kara, your team will lead a new pilot initiative. Transparent yield tracking, real-time MS monitoring, shared bonus pools based solely on verified data. I blinked. You want us to test it? No, she said. I want you to build it. When I shared the news with my team, the room filled with a quiet awe. Ethan looked stunned. May covered her mouth. Jordan let out a shaky laugh. After everything that happened, he said, They trust us with this. They trust the facts, I replied. And the facts say we know how to deliver. The first weeks were brutal, late nights, rewrites, recalibrations, but for the first time in a long time, we were arguing about process, not survival. Departments that once avoided us now asked for our workflows. Vendors referenced our data sets in renewal calls. One client told me directly, Your team is the reason we stayed with this facility. One afternoon, while loading updated metrics into the system, I noticed a new approval tag on the dashboard. Compliance review, Harwood. Ethan saw it too. He has to sign off on our results, he said softly. It was true. Every report showcasing our accuracy. Every build proving our efficiency. Every data set reflecting the integrity he tried to erase. Neil now had to verify them personally, May whispered. He used to call us divisive. Now he documents our success, I said. A week later, I crossed the production floor alone. The machines hummed steadily, a rhythm of metal and intention. Workers nodded at me, not out of fear or caution, but recognition. My team walked with confidence again. The fractures had healed into something stronger. Ravi approached with a clipboard. Your pilot program is spreading to the other facilities, he said. They are calling it the Ellington model. I did not need the title. The real victory was simpler. We had not broken the system. We had made the system rewrite itself around the truth we refused to surrender.